Get ready with me for the first time since giving birth and my labor story. So I gave birth on Sunday, the 25th of May, and the day before on Saturday, we had such a long day. So we got into bed around 10 o'clock and I immediately started having cramps. I was kind of gaslighting myself into not believing it was labor and just thinking I was having random cramps because our hospital is really far away and I didn't want to go if I was going to get turned away. So I waited and had those cramps for consistently 2 hours before I woke my husband up and asked him what he thought we should do. So we left a voicemail for my doctor and he called us back and said to go ahead and come down because we lived a little bit further away and they would at least triage me and see what we were going to do. Also, on the car ride down, these cramps I was having felt brutal. Like, I was convinced by the time we were actually driving down that I was at least going to be a couple centimeters dilated, or like, I don't know, a good amount dilated because of how much pain I was in. We get to the hospital, they triage me and they tell me I am only 1 centimeter dilated. I really wanted to cry on the spot because I was already having so much pain that I couldn't even imagine like how in the world I was going to get to 10 centimeters. But essentially they wanted us to walk the hospital halls for 2 hours and then to get rechecked to see if I had made any progress. At this point, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. So this just sounded absolutely horrible, but I was like, all right, I got to do what I got to do. I just got to suck it up. After walking for what literally felt like 17 years, I went and got rechecked, and at that point I was only at 2 centimeters, and I was so just sad and discouraged at this point because, like I said, my pain was already so bad. But they went ahead and decided to admit me anyway. I was really surprised. I think it's because I told my doctor I was really nervous about coming all the way down and then them sending me home. So I think he was like, okay, let's just go ahead and admit her. Once I was admitted, I took a shower and I felt so much better. I got myself a little bit more situated. But my doctor had told our nursing staff not to do another check on me unless I asked for it, which I think that they said that to me, but I think it just slipped my brain. So it seemed like so long went by and I just had no idea what was going on. Like, they weren't checking me and they weren't really saying anything. And I was in so much pain and I was kind of like, okay, what's the next step? So finally I asked a nurse like what the next step was. And she was like, oh, we can check you if you want. And I was like, yes, please. Cause I'm just like, I don't even know where I'm at right now. I forgot to mention, when they first admitted me, they had to do my IV, and the first nurse just mentioned to me that my skin was really thick in the area she was trying to do it. So she was trying for like about an hour and she had to poke me at different sites. And like, I mean, let me see if you can see. I'm still like really bruised for some reason. That was like the worst part, was getting that IV in my arm. And the second nurse, I think she took pity on me because she saw how many times I'd been poked and they had been trying for like an hour. So she gave me a shot of lidocaine in my arm before doing it again. And that was like perfect. Like, I didn't even feel it at all after that. At this point, I was on hour 14 of having contractions. The nurse went ahead and did my recheck and I was at 4 to 5 centimeters then. And at that point, I was definitely ready to get the epidural. Like, more than just the pain, and the pain was severe, I was exhausted. My body was so tired, but I couldn't rest because the contractions would not obviously let up. They were getting worse. So I just wanted the epidural so I could close my eyes for like 5 seconds and get just a little bit of sleep before I was gonna have to, like, you know, push out a baby. I was so scared of getting the epidural. I thought it was gonna be so painful. I always see those pictures that are like, this is the epidural needle. And I actually didn't even feel it at all. When he came in, they were like, oh, we're just gonna do a little poke with lidocaine to numb the area. It's like a little pinch. I was having contractions. I didn't even feel any pinch. Like, he was putting the tape on my back and doing everything, setting up back there. I thought he was still setting up. Then he took the tape off my back and he's like, okay, all done. And I was like, oh, I thought you were still setting up. Like, I genuinely didn't even know that he finished doing the epidural because that's like how little the pain was from it. Also, every single time I got a cervical check, they would be like, oh, you're only like whatever, 4 centimeters dilated. But they would say like, his head is so low, like we can like feel his head. Even when I was 1 centimeter dilated, she's like, I can completely feel baby's head. So that was why I think I had so much pressure. And I was experiencing a lot of back labor. And let me tell you, once I got that epidural, I was like a brand new person. I felt like I was floating on cloud 9. Like, I loved the epidural. I was finally able to completely relax, and I actually took like an hour nap, and then they said, you know, when you wake up, we'll recheck you. And they did. At that point, I was about like 6 centimeters dilated. So that was exciting because I started progressing a lot faster, and my best friend got there. My mom and my husband were already there with me. They were with me like from the very beginning. And I decided to like get ready and do my makeup. I was feeling good at this point because I knew baby was gonna be coming soon. After that, they checked me again, and I was at like 8 or like an 8, 9. And I can't really remember what we did in the interim, but we were like, okay, baby's coming soon. We're getting close. Things were getting exciting. And at that point, I realized, oh, it's 5/25/25. And I always thought it'd be so cool if he was born on that day. So we were really excited because we're like, oh, it's looking like he just might be born on that day. I think when I was about at like, I don't know if it was 7 or 8 centimeters dilated, the nurse was like, hey, if your doctor breaks your water, things will probably progress a lot faster. At this point, my water still hadn't broken, which I always pictured that like my water would break before I ever even got to the hospital, but it didn't. So after he came and broke my water, like things progressed so fast. And next thing I knew, we were ready to push. When I started pushing, it was just one nurse there. My doctor wasn't there yet, and there was no other nurses. It was about 10 o'clock at night. And as I'm pushing, my nurse starts getting a little bit nervous, and she's like, hey, baby's heart rate is decelerating. I think the cord may be around his neck. So then I'm like panicking, and she's like, oh no, don't freak out. Unless I'm freaking out, don't freak out. I'm like, okay. Then like 5 seconds later, she starts freaking out. She calls another nurse, and she's like, I need help, my patient's decelerating. And my husband, who's like the most squeamish person on the planet, like I almost didn't want him to be in the room because I didn't know if he'd even be able to like hear what was going on. He was like, what can I do to help? And he like jumped in and was like down there. I don't know what he was doing. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like that sound that's like, Lois, how are you doing that? You know that? Like that's literally what was going on. So I was like, my husband might be delivering this baby for all I know. I don't know. Everything turned out to be fine. And we got everything calmed down. My doctor got there. I thought I pushed for like hours because it felt like it. But now in hindsight, I looked back at the times. I was only pushing for like, I think like 45, 50 minutes. Still, it really felt like a long time. And at this point, my epidural had like completely worn off, or I don't know, I just like wasn't feeling, I was feeling all my contractions at this point. So yeah, I was feeling it. I was definitely feeling what was going on. But right after I pushed him out, they put him on my chest. We had like 2 hours of bonding time, like the golden hour. We had like 2 hours, and you know, cut the cord. Everything went great and was healthy. I feel very blessed. I feel like I had a really positive, blessed birthing experience. Yes, it was so painful. It was literally the most painful thing I've ever done in my life. But it was the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. Like I definitely will do it again. In the moment, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do this again. But I think now in hindsight, I would 100% do it again. Looking back now, I think the one thing would be I would labor longer at home. I wouldn't go to the hospital so soon. I just didn't know what the signs were to look out for, and I just didn't want to risk it. So I think I went to the hospital a little bit too early. And then next time around, I think I'll definitely hire a doula. I think it would be really nice to have someone that is like explaining everything to you while things are going on. Just because it was my first time, I didn't really understand like a lot of what was going on or kind of what the process was. So I felt like in limbo for a lot of my labor. That was all. That's my whole birth story. I feel so blessed, and I'm so happy that he's here with me now. I've been trying to do my makeup quick so I can go hang out with him again because he's with Dada right now. He just got fed, and then he's been hanging out with Dad. He's never seen me with makeup on. He's probably gonna be like, who is this? Where's my mom? Where's my ratchet mom? I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.